Hello everyone, it's that time of the week again where we go through some Overwatch 2 hot takes, courtesy of this Twitter post I made a couple of months ago. And we took some from Discord and on the YouTube comments as well, so leave some in the comments of this video as well to maybe get roasted, or not roasted, a response to your hot take. So this week, the first one we have here is from Luscious. It says, I hate that the game tries to shove everyone into ranked. I personally am a quick play Andy and occasionally get competitive and play ranked only to feel like it's just a toxic version of casual play, but with a better rule set. They should have an unranked mode, have the same rule set. I don't know if this is a hot take, to be honest with you, or it's a mild take because I don't feel like the game pushes you into ranked. In what way do they shove people into ranked? And there's two parts to this, right? The first part is I don't know how they shove it when there's like 10 different modes you can play. If you open arcade, you can play like, 6 different modes. You have custom games, and then when you open like quick play, you have mystery heroes. When there's a lot of different modes you can play. If you want the rule set for the unranked mode for the full game, they tried that in the Overwatch 2 beta, if that's what you mean. And I think the other complaint there was that it's too long. Some people genuinely like a quick play. You want under 10-minute matches to get that rapid pace. Imagine sitting there in a back and forth unranked mode and there's no backfill, and if there is a backfill, what's the incentive? Let's just say you got stomped and the other enemy team was like 4 minutes, and then a person leaves, and then you backfill into a game where you have to tolerate not only one end but go back and forth again. There are issues with that as well. Now the other option is to have 2 separate modes where you have just quick play and then you have just an unranked mode, but then you start segregating the player base even further, and we already see role queue having a long queue time. Open queue has long queue time. So now if we have an unranked mode, I don't know if it would perform well. I actually think it's okay to test it out, but they've also tested a smaller version of this called Team Queue last season, which was competitive. It was unranked, but it was just like, you queue is all 5 and the queue times are 20-30 minutes. No one would play anymore. Quick play is reserved for quick play, and there's more issues making queue times even longer for everybody else, basically. From YouTube comments, it says, a hot take of all time. I'd rather have a full animated Overwatch series or movie rather than the PvE. It's a multiplayer game. I don't care for PvE. I want to see the lore be explored on the big screen. I especially want to see what's in store for Sigma because he is by far one of the most interesting characters lore-wise. This is not a hot take at all. This is I think a lot of people agree now. Well, there's still some people really salty about the lack of a true PvE with talent trees, but I do want to say, I actually don't think that would be successful. We've already seen how much people play all the other modes and people just default back to quick play or competitive. I think the missions, like the Torbjorn mission and the actual, like the smaller PvE story mission came out. It was actually a lot of fun, but I played it like once or twice. I beat it once and I didn't want to play it again. Could they have really made replayability a thing with talent trees? That I don't even know. If we ignore the player base that is just angry to be angry about the lack of talent tree and the lack of PvE, I don't think this is a hot take, because I think everybody would want to see like a full animated series for Overwatch. I think the story is very rich. The characters are very have varying backgrounds and are very interesting, just like you said, Sigma. Another hot take here from Twitter. Free to play was a bad move for Overwatch. The new players came over from shooters that don't require a significant amount of teamwork to win. Example, COD, Valorant. So they lack the ability to comprehend that their mistakes can cost other people's ability to do their job. That is a very hot take. First of all, free-to-play was a bad move? Disagree. I think free-to-play was a great move to lower the barrier to entry. There's other things we can criticize, but going free-to-play is a very viable business model. Like having more players, more volume of players is a W for everybody. Not only for the company, Blizzard, but for players as well. Faster queue times, more friends wanting to join you, more friends are willing to try the game out. It's like, oh, it's a weekend. You want to play Overwatch? It's like, oh, I don't want to, buy the game because you're not sure if you'll like it. Oh, it's free. Just download and try it out, Free to play was a good move. Now you have your second part of your hot take where it's the new players came from shooters that don't require a significant amount of teamwork. I mean, Search and Destroy, COD 44 definitely requires good teamwork. Valorant, probably one of the highest amount of teamworks in the 2 examples you listed, more so than COD in my opinion. And then the last part where it says they lack the ability to comprehend that their mistakes cost other people their job. No. Hot take from another Twitter user. Reinhardt is still a bottom 2 tank after 7 years. Okay, let's continue. They said no mobility, extremely dependent on resources, can still get melted easily despite high HP pool. Charge is RNG dependent, may or may not lose you the entire fight, has not been meta since 6v6. Other tanks are simply better picks. Bottom 2 tank, I would say Roadhog takes the cake on that, maybe Wrecking Ball. Ryan still sees playtime, especially on some Brawl maps and some King of the Hill maps. It's certainly a spicy take, but he's definitely, I think, we'll get to your last point in a second. So I don't think he's bottom 2. The no mobility part, Ryan is actually more mobile than he ever was. He's been the same since forever, except now you can cancel charge. Being able to cancel the charge did wonders for him, by the way. Wonders. I made a full video back in the day to memorize the maximum charge distance to charge people perfectly off the map. Any Ryan players who want to go to non-cancelable charge needs to rethink. So I think his mobility is, I mean, it's not vertical mobility, but the charge certainly does help you close the gap a little bit better than he used to be. Extremely dependent on resources. That is pretty true, though. I won't deny that part. You wrote, can still get easily melted despite HP pool. True. That's most tanks, except maybe like Orisa and maybe like Diva if your Matrix is up. But like any Bastion can technically, well, Ryan can tank more than like a Winston jumping in against the Bastion. On some matchups, sure. You said charge is RNG dependent, may or may not lose the fight. That's also partially true. Like sometimes your charge doesn't suck the right person, or you just like, you shoulder bump them when you thought you pinned them. Has not been meta since 6v6. I think there was I wouldn't say hard meta, but he was certainly like not a bad choice at some point when he had higher armor in one of the seasons earlier. But then the last part where he said other tanks are simply better picks. That is true though. Against Reinhardt, Ramatra, and Orisa kind of cook him a little bit. I would say half of this a little mild. The other half is like, I actually agree with you. So, you know, not really too much of a hot take. This is actually a hot take from YouTube. Hot take. They should run 6v6 and 5v5 concurrently so players can directly compare both modes to settle the debate. My wishful thinking is also, yes, we should do this, but my other thinking is no, now we're going to make queue times even longer than they already are. And also, there is balance, right? We've already been balancing 5v5 for the past couple of years. The only thing to do is to like take the game back pre-Kiriko, pre-Queen, pre-Sojourn, pre all the new heroes, and then have that old version of Overwatch reinstated compared to the current 5v5. And if you ask me what side I'm on, I'm 5v5. Balancing 6v6 with all the new heroes and all these changes, which were balanced for 5v5, is going to be another nightmare. It's going to take a gazillion patches to get through. Like, practically speaking, not so much. So you have to go back to the final state of Overwatch 1. Did people enjoy the tail end of Overwatch 1 6v6? I certainly didn't. Okay, another hot take from YouTube. Top 500 and GM1 players' opinions are mostly irrelevant to the majority of the player base and generally aren't good. Honestly, I sort of agree. That means my opinion of you guys watching this video or in this chat should not even care what I have to say right now, if that were true, right? It's not irrelevant in like an objective sense, because clearly people are watching us for some reason and still supporting us on YouTube and watching streams. Like all you guys here, I would like to imagine some of you value my opinion, right? Back me up here. Come on, back me up. I think this user is lumping a lot of the top 500 GM1 players' opinions into one basket. Some people are going to have some bad opinions for sure. I don't really complain too much, not because there isn't stuff to complain about, but just because like I don't actually care enough to like bitch about certain things. I think being good at Overwatch doesn't mean you have good opinions, but your most dedicated players tend to be the first ones to notice our worst problems. Oh, there you go. Based off that, I wouldn't say they're mostly irrelevant, but everybody will have some bad opinions to answer this hot take. But like, yes, people who play the game in top 500 or GM1 that are pushing the limits on certain heroes and bugs and exploits are the first ones to probably discover a lot of the things that could have a trickle-down effect to cause problems further down the line for the rest of the player base. That's the real answer. The game would be better if players were locked into the characters they had picked when the round started. Having to play the counter pick game is annoying. So this is like a take where the game is like a draft. You pick it, you lock it in, like Valorant, you lock it in, like League of Legends, you lock it in, you can't switch. I don't think this is a hot take because I think Overwatch was built on the dynamic of switching. I know people don't like the whole switching heroes all the time. Well, no, I say people don't, but I'm also generalizing. I personally don't actually mind switching because I play a few heroes, but there's definitely players that only play one hero that would probably fall, like, would hate this. Playing counters is also part of the game. There's going to be one tricks in every game. You play League of Legends, you have that like one like Aurelia one trick. They have to learn all the bad matchups too. Overwatch might be a bit more glaring with a couple of bad tank matchups, but like even so, like learning how to play around it is also a skill in itself. And I've always said this, I don't even think, is it hyperbole? It's like, oh, they pick this, it's GG, like we always lose if X they play this. But that's not true. At worst, 40%. Like over a large sample size, if you threw a Winston against a Bastion every single game, you're gonna still sneak some games in, like 40% of them. It's not great, but you're still winning 4 out of 10 or 400 out of 1,000. Okay, that's a little bit more extreme, but you know what I mean? People are like, oh, it's 100% lose rate when X and Y. It's not true. But yeah, I don't think the game should be locked into the hero that you pick at the beginning. I think actually Overwatch is a lot of fun with the switching dynamic, to be honest with you. This hot take: the game is miles better when Genji is meta. Not only is it more visually appealing, but watching players having value with high skill ceiling heroes is more rewarding. I actually think this is just a Genji player saying this. I think the game, I wouldn't say miles better when Genji's meta. I certainly don't mind the Genji meta. I do think it's fun for me as an Ana player to like nano the Genji and get some big blades and stuff. Sure. But there's a lot of heroes that have high skill ceiling, right? Tracers, Anas, or the tanks that are pretty cool to see at a high level. Honestly, I think Sigma's actually kind of fun to watch. Doomfist, even Winston with like great like juggle mechanics is so hype. I remember back in the day seeing like the crazy juggles off the map when it was like the first time ever. It's like, oh my god, that's crazy. As a spectator, it's different. Spectator versus playing. I wouldn't fully agree with this hot take. It's not really super hot where you say when Genji's meta, but like a Genji meta it's probably pretty fun to watch. I think most people enjoy watching dive because it's movement and dynamic. If there's less movement, it's less like sensory stuff, and it's just like it's more static and probably not as exciting to watch. That's it. Okay. Okay. Hot take. Original Mercy was fine. How back are we going? Like 2016 Mercy? Like hide and res all 5? No. No, we do not go back to that nightmare. OG Mercy was the most unengaging game mechanic in the world. Imagine having to tell your team to die in game, of course. Like, oh, okay, oh, we lost one. All right, everybody, get on the car, get on the tractor, just die right now. Just go die. And then the Mercy gameplay is just hiding. That's kind of what Tracer does, and it's an opportunistic kind of game style where instead of like doing what you're supposed to do with like damage boost and movement and stuff, you just hide and you bank on hitting a 5-man res. I don't know. Like, I think New Mercies, you know, has some issues, right? But like the movement, the super jump, that's the more rewarding part. Being able to juke people and fly and like escape. I think, well, I'm not a Mercy player, but I'm not gonna put words in every Mercy player's mouth, but I feel like there's like an exhilarating high if you juke a Genji blade or juke a Tracer with like a 180 woo super jump over cover, fly here, get the res behind the wall. Like that's probably where the fun kicks in. I actually think Mercy movement's kind of cool, to be honest with you. Good skill expression, and it feels cool. It feels really good. I think it's the movement that really gets people. So like Original Mercy, definitely not fine because you're doing the complete opposite of that. Oh, this is an interesting take. The fact that Overwatch content creators have to make their own mini games, challenges, and engagement farming tweets because the game itself isn't as fun to play or watch is such a waste of great streamers. All right, that's a pretty hot take. Number one, making mini games and challenges is what every game does. Every single game will have a creator that, you know, does fun little things like that for content. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and that's not a waste of great streamers at all. You watch any Souls game, oh, no hit challenge, you know, only using this weapon challenge. And if you play like Skyrim, only using a bow, or you play another game, you know, doing anything like that. Now, in a live service multiplayer game, there's an argument that it does it at the expense of teammates. That's like a different can of worms, whether it's like ethical in a sense, but I think doing mini challenges in games is great. Like Valorant content creators do 5 Irons versus 2 Radiants, custom games like that. It's fresh and it keeps content new. I don't know how many times you want to watch another like low Grandmaster Reinhardt player just play a game, you know what I mean? Versus, you know, doing something wacky. So, and I think the workshop with all these custom game modes is actually fantastic for the community as well. And a lot of like brand new games were built off of custom games and challenges and mini games off of another game. So I totally disagree with this. The engagement farming tweets is just like a depends on the creator kind of thing. I don't think it's a waste of a creator. I just think that's the creator themselves. They like baiting. I'm not a master of baiting, but some people love it. They love being a master baiter. That's just a personal choice for them. So like, I don't tweet, like there's people who tweet just to like get a reaction out of certain communities, Mercy communities. They'll just say something, you know, like hot take about the Mercy, just to farm Twitter engagement. That's not what I personally do, but you know, it's not because the game isn't as fun to play or watch. That's just their choice. That's my take on this. I do think this is a hot take for sure. Good hot takes for the week. See you guys for another week of it next week.